It is.
Okay, so you know what you need to do for the new Preston Petty product, which we'll give away.
That's for the viewer appreciation prize.
Yes, and I've got.
And then you have that. Well, you can ask the Lucas brothers what they want.
Yeah, I could do that. Just confirm something with me. Did you rented a car for Saturday? Friday.
Friday.
For Friday.
Friday morning, we get there early, like 10:30.
And it's supposed to be over 90 degrees in Paris?
89, and then on Friday, 91 on Saturday.
91 on Saturday. Oh, well.
We wearing shorts.
I'll definitely be wearing shorts. I couldn't believe how warm it was in Chicago this week.
That was an anomaly.
It was. It was unbelievable. The weather was beautiful, and everything about that city was completely different than what I'd ever heard and what I ever saw. It's 6 o'clock. I have to start the show. I love you. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I'm Jerry Maddox.
And I'm Ryder Maddox in sunny California.
And you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, hosted by Joe Abadi.
Good evening, everyone. It's Joe Abadi, fresh in from Chicago. Thank you for joining me tonight. I've got the lovely Susie with me as usual. Susie, where are you? Ah, there you are.
Hi.
Everything going okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to know is, viewer appreciation prize. What do you got for them tonight, Susie?
We have an Enduro taillight assembly from Preston Petty Products.
There it is.
Enduro taillight assembly.
There it is. Keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Keep sharing the show. Somebody is going to win. That's a brand new product, fresh out of the box from Preston Petty Products and Paul Stannard. That product will come to you directly from Paul once we get your address, and Susie picks a random share winner a little bit later on in the show. As always, I want to thank our sponsors, Motion Pro and Vmxq, Preston Petty Products, Replica Motorcycle Parts Racer X, the International Motocross Museum, Full Circle Racing, my dear friend Mike Chamberlain, and of course, George Ackerman and the Moto Barn. Big event going down there this weekend, Saturday, October 26th. That happens from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Food, fun, and it's free. And I've got the new mini Moto Barn as well. George Ackerman, big supporter of this show and a big supporter of the International Motocross Museum as well. Thank you, Russell Waters, for your fabulous AMSOIL products. We love using them here in the shop, and we know a lot of people that are using them in their shops as well, including some of your other products that fit in other places. Like, you know what? I got a can of it right here. I love this stuff. The glass cleaner. Great stuff. It foams. It doesn't drip. Makes everything nice and clean. Russell Waters. AMSOIL. Thank you so much for what you do for us here at the show. FastGuyStuff.com and Fred Hudgens from Derf Cycles. Fred just re-upped his advertising budget with us, and he will be joining us for another year. So I want to thank Fred for that. And what else we got happening here? Oh, we still got a special going on from AMSOIL. If you want to become a supporter of the show, you can do that. It's $49.95. You get a shirt. You get your name up on the board behind me. If you're really on the ball, you'll do that and get 4 products from AMSOIL. It'll be 4 different products. It'll be gear oil. It'll be premix. All the things you see here in this picture. Plus, you get some koozies, some stickers, and you get a Vintage Motocross Q&A shirt as well. Follow the link in the show description to donate to our show. There is a link to the PayPal account, and you can donate any amount. We appreciate anything that you do. Susie mentioned a little while ago that we have this great product coming up as a giveaway later on, and there you can see it out of the box on the fender. Great little item, fresh from Paul Stannard and Preston Petty Products, the Enduro Taillight. Keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Let the people know that you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Vmxq, longtime sponsor of the show and a sponsor of, well, not only the show, but a big supporter of the show. And they share our videos and they put a lot of our stuff out there as well. I've got something from, it's a couple of months back. It might even be, well, it's probably over a year by now. But it's a tip I think you're going to like. It involves fork seal removal, and it is brought to you by Vmxq.
I want to talk to you about fork seals. Changing them, well, it can be difficult if you don't have the right tools. Sometimes you just don't have the right tool. As you can see in this picture right here, they give you a few different examples of the way you could do it. The first one on top, the sketch shows a screwdriver and a guy trying to pry out the oil seal. It's not a real good way to do it. It can work, but it's not very efficient, and it doesn't always work. The one on the left-hand side where it says fork slider, you can do it with that, but not everybody has a fork slider, and you can tell right where the guy's fingers are in the picture, there's not a whole lot of leverage on it. Now, before I get a little bit more into this, the whole point of it, of course, is to get the fork seal out of the fork, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. Right here is something you want to look out for, though, because this is what happens when you do it with the wrong tool. Jordan, could we go to the AMSOIL camera? Okay, thank you. Right here, you can see a chip. What happens is somebody is going to pry down on that seal trying to get it out with the wrong tool, and they're liable to chip the fork just like you see it here. This happens to be a Montesa fork. The wall of the lower fork leg is very, very thin. Over here, you can see this is a Honda lower fork leg. It's from a CR125. It's a whole lot thicker, but sometimes it's just as difficult, maybe more so, to get the fork seal out. So what I recommend is this. You're going to put your fork seal, your fork, in a vise. You're going to secure it. It's going to have to be secured to where you can't touch it because you're going to be using a little bottle of MAP gas just like this, and you're going to heat up right around the edge from the outside of the fork leg, and then you're going to put something in there like this. This is a pry bar I've had around the shop forever, but you're going to get it in there. Once you get that leg, that lower area, warmed up. It doesn't have to be boiling hot, and of course you don't want to melt the rubber seal that's in there. You just want to get it warmed up, moving around there. You're going to put your pry bar in there like that, and it's going to pop right up as easy as could be. So if you don't have any special tools to get fork seals out, and it's something that you need to take care of right away, with a bottle of MAP gas and a pry bar like that, or a real long screwdriver, you'll be able to get that fork seal out. Just remember to protect the edge of the lower fork leg like this. What you could do is put a little piece of metal across there, or a piece of plastic, even a rubber inner tube, something that's going to absorb some of the pressure that's coming through from the pry bar. So, next time, why don't you try that?
We will be right back after a message from Vmxq.
I'm Brock Glover, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and we'll be right back.
Vmxq, who already has a full line of vintage parts, now has air shocks that are an exact duplicate of the original air shocks so popular in the late 70s. So whether you're looking to build a full racer or museum showpiece, these shocks will give you that incredible 70s look and improve your bike's performance. These new air shocks are fully rebuildable with Vmxq rebuild kits, and all shocks are hand assembled in the USA with all new components. Every component is brand new. Just like the originals, our air shocks are adjustable with 2 chambers, high and low pressure, giving you tremendous flexibility for settings of your bike suspension. The Vmxq air shocks come fully assembled and ready for installation. Just add air or nitrogen. The kits include the manual and spacers. Visit Vmxq.com to check out the air shocks and all that Vmxq has to offer to help you get back on track and to keep that ride going.
Vmxq, keep the ride going with over 1,000 products in their catalog. They've got something new coming out every month, it seems. Connecting rod kits for just about every bike there is. A lot of Osa, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, and Kawasaki stuff. And don't forget, any orders over $200, you get free United States priority shipping. U.S. priority shipping on any orders over $200. If you've got a little money left over, how about sending me $6? We'll get you some beautiful stickers from Vintage Motocross Q&A. These are the newest and much improved sticker over our last set. These are waterproof. They'll stick to anything. I think they're fireproof even. Susie, are they fireproof? They're something proof. And that's what's happening at Vintage Motocross Q&A. What's it worth? This is a really fun segment of the show where I encourage you, the viewers at home, to guess how much you think this bike recently sold for. This segment is, of course, brought to you by my dear friend Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing. Tonight, we'll be taking a look at a 1974 Yamaha YZ80. This is, of course, the smallest of the three YZs that came out in 1974, 360 to 250, and you had the little 80. They all look very, very similar. This bike recently sold on Bring a Trailer. I'll read to you some of the finer details of it. You give me your best guess at the end of the show. And you know what I'm going to give you? I'm going to give you a set of grips. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to either give you, I want to look at you when I say this. I'm going to give you either a set of grips from Preston Petty Products, just like this, like we give away most weeks, or one of these from Vmxq. This is their telescopic, AMSOIL. Thank you, Susie. I'm failing in my old age. This is the telescopic magnetic. This does it all, and it's got a light on the end of it, and there it is. So whoever comes closest without going over on how much you think this bike recently sold for, you will have your choice of the grips or the sticky extended thing. Paint on the bike looked really good on the gas tank, I'll say that. And it looked okay on the side panels as well. The 74 YZ80 is powered by an air-cooled 72cc two-stroke single paired with a 4-speed transmission. It's finished in silver with red accents. It features a high-mount exhaust system, auto lube injection. I have to play ignorant on this one. I really do. I don't think this bike had auto lube. I think it ran on premix. Maybe the MX had auto lube and the DTs or the little JT1. I'm not so sure the YZ did. Anyway, got a cross brace handlebar, front and side number plates, and a side stand. The YZ80 first produced in 74. This is the first year, and as he mentioned earlier, it's finished in black and silver. The bodywork on this example was refinished under previous ownership, and the frame was repainted. Okay, fine. Now, as I looked a little bit closer at this bike, and which I do on my computer, because I not only want to read to you what they write, which sometimes isn't very accurate at all, but I want to give my personal opinion on what I see. And if you take a look at this pipe, you can see that it was probably rusted beyond belief before somebody maybe took the time to sandblast it and paint it. Another thing I saw here was this frame. Look closely and you'll see that there's a lot of rust and pitting along that rear frame loop. I'm not so sure about that hardware holding the fender in, if that is correct. And not to be a nitpicker, but it's more than obvious, the paint is chipping off the fender. Right there, you can see it as plain as day. The forks were painted over. Not so sure they were painted over. I will give the guy a plus on the spokes and relacing. It looks pretty good. There was some mild pitting on the rims. You can't see it in this picture, but the spokes look new, and the hubs appear as if they were repainted, and they were done quite nicely. Once again, you look here, you can see this frame was a cradle of rust, guaranteed. You can see the pitting right here. Not a very good job in getting it cleaned up before either powder coating it or painting it, whichever it was. Another gripe I have, see that Phillips screw there? It's supposed to be a JIS, a Japanese industrial standard screw. I can assure you this is not a JIS screw. This is something out of a hardware store. Okay, so it's one of those 50-50 bikes. Looks good at 50 feet away at 50 miles an hour. But how much do you think this bike sold for? Oh, I did it a little bit early. Sorry, I pulled the trigger on that one. But somebody probably typed in how much they thought it was before I actually put that up. $6,750?
Oh, you did? Oh.
Anybody put in $6,750 before that, or $6,600? Anybody come close?
Well, 67.
All right, he's over, but that's real close. Who's that?
6,700.
Yeah, that's without going over. Yeah. Who else?
Hold on, I'm looking.
Anyway, while Susie's looking, I will, of course, reiterate there. I don't think the bike is all that nice, especially not for $6,750. I don't think I'm too out of touch with the price of motorcycles these days, although I haven't been doing much buying and selling. But the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page, which is run primarily by Bill Masho, kind of was my baby that I started about 7 years ago, and I do follow that quite well. Anybody at 6750, Susie?
Only John Deemer and Nazarone got 67.
Right, and what Deemer get?
Vintage mini bike lovers got 67, 67.
So he went over.
Yeah, by $17. He was the closest,
All right.
right?
Yes, vintage mini bike lovers.
Right.
Thomas, Sir Thomas, get me your address. I might even have it. I think you won something a while back. Oh no, you know what it is? You bought a shirt from me. You bought a shirt from me, and I might have your address. If not, send it to me again. You've got my phone number, and you can have your choice of the magnetic telescopic light or a set of grips from Preston Petty Products. You know what else is happening up there in the Northwest? This right here. You can win 2 tickets to the Supercross. All right, that's a trip for 2 to the Arizona Supercross 2025. You need not be present to win this, but you're going to get a fully paid trip. Okay, that happens on February 1st, 2025. It is a raffle. It's $20 a ticket, 3 for $50. Just you need to go to www.wsmchof.org. What does that actually stand for? The Washington State Motorcycle Hall of Fame. And our sponsor, Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing, have a lot to do with this. Okay, so you can get over there, buy yourself a ticket, or you can get yourself 3 for $50. Somebody's going to the Arizona Supercross on a plane with full accommodations. Really, really great deal. What do we got coming up here now? We've got the Full Circle commercial coming up, and then we'll be right back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A. Don't forget, we've got that tail light that we're giving away in just a bit, and a few other things going on as well. We'll be right back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A.
Okay.
I get asked often, what's the most important thing on Clunker? Answer's simple, it's me. That's why I use Full Circle Racing wheels prepped by Tom McAllister. So should you. Watch this and learn why. When racing vintage motocross where suspension is very limited, your wheels can be the difference between winning or serious injury. We chose to run Full Circle Racing wheels because of the super high quality materials and the heavy duty spokes used. Prepped by Tom McAllister, I have the confidence on the track to push way harder through the rough stuff and the bigger jumps, knowing my wheels are going to stay under me. Hey, Clunker may be 50 years old, but his wheels are brand new, and yours should be too. Call Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing today.
We'll be right back.
I'm Gary Chamberlain. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abate.
Where's my commercial?
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom. We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
The International Motocross Museum is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Any donations you make or anything you purchase is 100% tax deductible. Now, if you were there this weekend over in Lake Forest, Illinois, I was there along with Warren Reed. Sasaki Osuka was all the way there from Japan, and of course, Terry Good and a couple of hundred other donators to the International Motocross Museum. This event was for us to show you, the people who donated cash to the museum, just a way for us to give back. And there were some great bikes on display, including the 76 OW from Bob Hanna. This one really, really rocked the crowd. This is the RC 125, one of only 5 built, and this is the last one left. This is number 5. This bike was the design of the man in this, not in this picture, I'm sorry, that's Terry Good, but in this picture right here, all the way to the left, Sasaki Osuka. Osuka was there all the way from Japan, and the RC125, this prototype right here, that was his first attempt at that bike, and that's why we all got the Honda Elsinore in 1973 and 1974. Terry Good was on hand answering questions. A lot of photographs were being taken. One of the highlights of the day, this 1973 Suzuki RN 370 of Roger DeCoster's. This is the infamous, or maybe I should say famous, sand tank bike. It doesn't have the sand tank on it right now, but this bike was started with that open expansion chamber, and boy, what a beautiful noise it made. That bike was started along with this RC 125. Warren Reed swung a leg over this 125 too, and rode it around that beautiful park where we were having the event on Saturday. And once again, here you see Warren, Terry Good, and Osuka-san, as we call him here in America. What a great event it was. Now, I went live throughout the day on Saturday, bringing you coverage from as early as 8:30 in the morning. There were over 60 bikes on display. If you go over to the Vintage Motocross Q&A page, you'll see all the videos. You'll also hear that RN 370, the RC 125, and there was a Mugen 360 that was started up as well. You'll be able to hear all that. Go over to the Vintage Motocross Q&A page, or go over to the International Motocross Museum. I think they're posted there as well. We are looking to swing the doors open sometime in mid-2025 on the International Motocross Museum. Moto Showcase is brought to you by Preston Petty Products. We talked a little bit earlier about that mud flap tail light we're going to be giving away in just a bit when Susie determines who our viewer appreciation person is. In case you forgot, Preston Petty Products is now in Sandgate, Vermont. Paul Stannard, Patty Stannard, doing a great job up there. There's their email. There's their phone number on this little card right here. Get a hold of them anytime. Tonight's Moto Showcase bike is sent in to us by Chris Lucas. This is from the Lucas family collection. And over the years, I can't think of anybody that has contributed more bikes to the show than the Lucas family. I mean, there's 3 or 4 of them. They all love motocross. They're at the auction every year, and they build some pretty incredible bikes. So this is Chris Lucas's 1976 YZ250C. Chris states that on his builds, it's very hard for him to just leave stuff alone. So on this YZ, I went with the Japanese domestic market theme. The motor was built by Woody at Action Cycle in Tacoma, and it has a PVL. The tank is a YZ250B tank with a custom paint by my son, Neil, and it says Yamaha in Japanese. The front forks and the canisters and covers, I found those new in the box at Speed and Sport in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Racetech built the rear shock. The wheels are from Buchanan. The pipe was built by Gemco, and the translucent plastic are from DC Plastics. This bike also features new controls, cables, wide pegs, billet parts, polished and stainless hardware, and a whole lot more. Thank you for featuring this bike on your show, Joe. We at the Lucas family really enjoy it, and we'll keep sending in bikes if you keep putting them on the show. I will be more than happy to put your bikes on the show anytime, Chris, okay? And I want you to let me know, because you've had quite a few bikes go through here. So do you want the grips from Preston Petty Products or this fabulous little magnetic telescopic light thing from our dear friend Russell Waters at Amsoil? You let me, I'll get one in the mail to you as soon as you tell me. Don't forget to support our sponsor, Preston Petty Products. You get all the plastic fenders and flaps and integrated headlights and taillights, all the stuff that you loved from the early 1970s. Here's another picture of that fender, Susie. And Susie, do you have our viewer appreciation? Well, then let me get you on camera right here. And
Are they winning this Enduro assembly, light assembly?
that's what they're getting. They're going to get that directly from Paul Stannard. It's going to be the person you picked. So who did you pick?
I picked Steve Heisler.
Steve Heisler?
Heisler.
Steve Heisler.
Heisler. Let us know what your address is and we'll get this out to you. Well, actually, it comes directly from Paul Stannard. This awesome Enduro tail light assembly kit.
There it is.
There you go.
Thank you, Paul Stannard at Preston Petty Products. There's once again, there's their website and their phone number if you want to get a hold of them for any reason. But Mr. Heisler, you are tonight's winner of this right here.
Yeah.
Very cool. Tail light. That's not really a mud flap. It's actually where you mount your license plate on your dual purpose or enduro bike. We'll be back next week. I'm not leaving you right now. I just want to tell you that the Did You Know segment, which is usually a fabulous job done by Jeff Kokoski, is not happening tonight. No, it's not Jeff's fault. Nobody was sure I'd be back from Chicago by now, or whether or not we were going to have a show tonight. But obviously, I've got a lot of loyal viewers, and I always want to stand up and do the right thing for my sponsors. So we are doing a show. Okay. Right now, I've got something special from Robert Oscar Pomeroy. And this is kind of an interesting thing because I actually went to visit this museum. It's up in Canada. When I was there last year, we've got a little teaser here for you from our dear friend Oscar. And if you want to see it in its entirety, again, you can go over to the Vintage Motocross Q&A page and you can see it all.
Hi everyone, I'm Oscar Gayton for Vintage Motocross Q&A. And today I'm in the Gopher Dunes race shop in Cortland, Ontario, Canada. As you can see, their race shop is not only a race shop that's the factory Honda shop for Dylan Wright, but they have 7 national championships to their name. And the other good thing about the shop that's very interesting, the owner, Frank Schuster, is a vintage car collector, and even better, he is a vintage motocross restorer, enthusiast, and race promoter, and he does put on vintage motocross race. So I thought he'd be a perfect candidate for our interview for this evening. And here's the owner, Frank Schuster. I just found him, so hello, Frank.
How are you, Oscar?
Good. So I'm lucky enough to walk through your shop and your build room and see all the parts hanging there, and so I see obviously the race bikes, the vintage cars, and then vintage restores here. So what was your first? What did you start with? Cars first, or the race team, or the bikes?
Well, kind of the cars I bought. I mean, I've always been a car enthusiast. I mean, I like the old muscle cars.
Yeah.
But because of the connection with Gopher Dunes and owning Gopher Dunes for years, before my son took it over, I mean, obviously I had a big interest in motorcycles. And Gopher Dunes was founded in '86, so the older bikes really appealed to me. And so I guess it started probably about 13 years ago.
13 years ago. And your background with motorcycles, did you start at a young age? How did that go for you? And
well, on the farm we always had motorcycles, always something to ride around. My friends all had motorcycles. We never really did much racing. We did more trail riding or built our own little tracks and stuff. And then in 1974, I started going to some tracks and doing some racing.
what was your first race bike?
KX250.
KX250. And I don't see a 74 KX250 in your collection.
I am desperately looking for one.
Looking for one?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I'd like to get one. Actually, that's the first bike I ever won a trophy with, so I'd love to have one of those
For your
bikes.
first bike, yes, I agree. Actually, one of the topics that comes up, and I know you're a race promoter, especially in the vintage, because I've raced a few of your vintage events, and it's always a fantastic turnout. And back home in the U.S., I mean, everybody wants to keep it alive, but it's hard to get the turnout, and it gets harder every year. But you have success with it, great success, because I've seen photos, I've seen video, I've actually been attended a few races. What do you think, is there a couple of things that you think that are like the magic formula to bring people?
Yeah, there's a couple things. Number one, the vintage guys, when you're riding these bikes, a lot of them, they're out there for fun. They don't want to wreck their bikes, and they want to have fun. So you build a track that can be fun, still challenging enough, but still not killer jumps, like kind of more old school.
Okay.
And even if you have some of the, vet vintage guys riding, like the vet guys.
Like a support class?
Yeah, on more modern bikes, they can ride it. It's still challenging enough to them.
Okay.
So, so that's one way to keep it going. The other way is to, try and introduce youth to it. Like, start getting younger kids to start building motorcycles. And I've told parents this time and time again, if you have a bike that you started with riding, never sell that bike. Keep that bike and, keep it for your kid, because someday he'll wish he had that motorcycle, never sold it.
Right.
And if you have a favorite bike, a favorite vintage bike, find one, restore one, and ride it. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
You shared something with me about bringing youth to the track, and I think that's a fantastic idea because I have 5 or 6 vintage little 80s, okay, that I'll ride around the yard and back in the garage, and that's it. But if you had a race for kids, I feel like, and I know this because I've heard older guys who are older than us, let's say, they got a lot of vintage bikes. They will bring bikes to the track for other, cousins, nephews, whatever, to race because they want to see their bike on the track and enjoy viewing their bike on the track. And when you told the story about bringing youth to the track, I thought this is fantastic because I think I want to bring a couple of my old 79 KX80 YZ80s and give them to some 12-year-old, 13-year-old and say, hey, go do 5 laps and have fun. I'll keep it running, and I get to see what it looks like when a 90-year-old child is on a bike, not me riding it, like a circus bear. But I would love to promote that, and I hope you give me the date, and I will definitely drive up here and bring a couple of bikes, and we just find some use, and it'd be great.
Well, there you have it. That was actually the end of our video with Oscar and Frank Schuster. I want to thank them both. In the very near future, I'll post it, maybe as early as tomorrow. Oscar is going to send me the full video of him and Frank Schuster talking more about the bikes and going through Frank's shop right there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So you don't want to miss that. We'll have that on Vintage Motocross Q&A on our Facebook page. That's coming up, okay? Right now, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A. We're going to hear from our sponsor, Replica Motorcycle Parts.
Hi, I'm Paul Parkinson with Replica Motorcycle Parts. I'm sitting here with our test bike, which is ridden by Jerry Maddox. It carries the #1 plate in the US. So let's go over a couple of the parts that we've got on here. We've got our ignition cover with the case saver built into it, so that when the chain comes off, you're not damaging your cases. Spacer, foot pegs. Jerry runs our air box. Seat brackets, keeps the seat on tight so he doesn't fall off when he's going over the whoops. And then this side, Jerry runs a couple little things, a lot of little rubber parts on the bike, and that stuff are all done by us. And then down here we've got our brake pedal, which has got needle bearings in there, and then it's got a wider toe peg, so it gives them a real nice, clean, easy to use brake. And then this is our latest part. This is a CR250 type knuckle. In fact, Honda used them on the last versions of the MR175s, and this is a real trick aluminum Kickstarter arm. So that gives them lightweight, strength, and reliability more than anything else. Reliability.
There you have it. ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. Our dear friend Paul Parkinson Sr. And you know what? I'm going to be seeing Paul Parkinson Sr. on Saturday at this event right here, the Langton Motorsport Bike Show that happens October 26th. I will be leaving on a jet plane again come Friday morning, and I'll be down there with my friend Paul Parkinson. He'll have a lot of parts for Hondas, Yamahas, Suzuki's, replicating a lot of stuff. Of course, the chain guides, the rollers, the guides, the wheels, and so much more. Paul Parkinson Sr. Silencers for your 74, 73 Honda CR125 and 250s, Kickstarter knuckles, and so much more. Get over to ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. Check out their website. There's a lot of stuff happening there, including some transmission gears that are going to be coming up. And I have heard more than once rumors of some very trick aftermarket heads that you wanted to have back in the 70s, maybe even the 80s. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by RacerX.com. Be sure to visit them online or get a subscription on your newsstand now. It was 1970. The NRM Series found itself in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, just outside of Tulsa. Swedish Husqvarna rider Arne Kring was the class of the field, winning the first 2 of 3 motos, then holding back a bit in the third so that their teammate, Krister Hamilton, could duel for the fans. They crossed the finish line arm in arm. Here's a picture of it. Though the officials decided that Hamilton crossed the line first. The top American that day was Montesa-mounted Mike Runyard with a 5.56 Moto. Great fun. Back there with the Swedes in 1970. Here's a photograph I know you're all familiar with. The best in the business, the legends, are all right there. And banging bars off the starting line. Suzuki's Roger DeCoster, Yamaha's Bob Hanna had an epic duel at the Cycle World USA Trans Am in St. Peters, Missouri. DeCoster got the overall with a 2-1 score to Hanna's 1-2. Third overall that day went to Marty Smith on the factory Honda. A memorable moment for this race was captured by the legendary photographer Jim Giannatsis of DeCoster, Hanna, and Smith, all coming off the starting gate together. Also in that picture, I believe number 7 is Ken Howerton. Number 1 is Ken Howerton. 7, I believe, is Danny Laporte. And 16 back there, TC, Tommy Croft. As I just mentioned just a moment ago, the Langston Motorsports Bike Show is happening this Saturday, October 26th. Free to the public from 9 to 2. There's a food truck. The doors are open on the shop. There's some incredible savings to be had at Langston Motorsports. Over 200 motorcycles have been registered for the show. Guests will be Rick Staten, of course, Grant Langston. Brock Glover usually shows up. Gary Denton. I think Donnie Hansen's going to be there. I think I mentioned Scott Burnworth. I think Scott's going to be one of the judges as well. Gary Chaplin will be there, and Norm Francis, and there's always some absolutely phenomenal motorcycles there. Tough show to judge. I'm glad I'm off the hook this year at Langston's. January 12th, 2025. It'll be here before you know it. You'll be freezing your chestnuts off in York, Pennsylvania at the York Swap Meet. The night before, there is the banquet for the Potomac Vintage Riders, but probably one of the biggest swap meets on the East Coast for that time of the year, certainly that time of year, the York Swap Meet, and I will be happy to be there once again with my friend Bill Nazelrod, and I don't know who else is going to be there this year. In past years, you've had Warren Reed, Sue Fish, Martina Faltova-Cope, and a host of others. If you want to become a sponsor or a supporter for Vintage Motocross Q&A, please get a hold of me. Our supporters on the bottom have just about reached their term. So I will be replacing them with some new supporters of the show. Get a hold of me for $49. You get a shirt, you get your name up on the board, and I could probably get you some discounts with some of our sponsors as well. Sponsorship opportunities if you want to play with the big boys like Vmxq, Motion Pro, and Full Circle Racing. Well, let me tell you something. Those guys just aren't up there for the past 4 or 5 years for their health. They're seeing results. We're reaching 50, 60, 70,000 people a week, and it's growing. Get a hold of me. We'll get you back on the board. I guarantee you see a return on your money. An event that was canceled due to the horrific floods down in North Carolina is taking place on Saturday, November 12th. That is the barbecue and fundraiser for Crowards Creek Church. Our dear friend Al Roof is taking the reins on this one. You don't want to miss that. And, of course, our dear friends, they're over at Ben's Vintage Mini Bike Podcast. And it was Ben who was a winner earlier, Ben Thomas. Susie picked him for the, well, she didn't pick him. He actually got closest on the price, I believe, for the.
What's his last name?
It's Ben Thomas.
Oh, Thomas.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he did get closest.
Yeah, and but he's got that great mini bike podcast too. They just had an episode on October 13th. I think they come out with one every second Sunday of the month. But if you go over to that mini bike podcast page, you can listen to all of them. They have them there pre-recorded like we do. That wraps it up for this week's Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and supporting the show. I hope you enjoyed the 4 interviews I had on last week. I had to give you a little something while I was away. Don't forget to go to the page or the International Motocross Museum page. Hey, Gene, come on, buddy. Bye, Gino. Okay. And that's it. We are back, but we'll be down at Langston's this Saturday. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time on Vintage Motocross Q&A.
I'm Gary Vmxq, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abadi.